Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Carlson. I'm CEO of Aquanta, and we're bringing the lowly water heater into the 21st century smart grid. So for all the talk about the smart grid and the smart home, the reality is that the lowly water heater has pretty much been left out, right? All the activity has been in the smart thermostat space, which is really incredible considering that water heating is the second largest user of energy in the home, per the chart here. And water heaters are ubiquitous in North American homes. You know, they're using $32 billion of energy every year, 32 billion with a B. That's 3% of the total energy consumption in the United States. That's 150 million metric tons of CO2 every year. So, you know, massive amounts of energy waste, though, because the water heater is this dumb appliance that's just sitting there trying to stay hot all the time. Right? So there isn't a smart thermostat that's available or has been put into or built into the water heaters. So the other thing about water heaters is that they represent an amazing grid integration opportunity. I'll get more into that in a minute, but the Rocky Mountain Institute estimated that somewhere around $3.6 billion of economic potential is residing in intelligent control of the water heaters. And, you know, RMI and we didn't invent or discover this grid integration opportunity of smart water heaters because utilities, including our friends here at Exelon/Constellation, you know, BGE has 75,000 water heaters they control in Maryland, right? But with legacy infrastructure. And so that infrastructure is under a lot of pressure here, and I'll talk more about that here in a minute with kind of a busy slide here. So if you don't have a telescope here to read it, don't worry about it because I'll explain it here a little bit about why the water heater is such an interesting opportunity for the emerging smart grid. So water heaters have been used for decades to help manage grid load, right? And what's going on now, though, with utilities is the fact that they're under a lot of pressure, the grid's under a lot of pressure from flat and stagnant load growth, from climate change, which is causing increasing variability in their grid load, but also increased penetration of renewables. And that's what actually this chart is showing, is that utilities can either build more capacity, build more supply to help manage that grid load, the variability, or they can do what's called demand-side management. So look at sources of usage at the grid edge, as they say, so commercial cooling, commercial lighting, what have you, and say, all right, we're going to help use those resources to manage the grid load. And so as you get increasing penetration of renewables, and so that's what this 10, 20, 40% looks like, you have increasing variability. And what are the assets that are out there that can be used by the utility to help manage that grid? Well, the water heater is actually, in the home, is the single most and far and away the most economic and ubiquitous and largest opportunity for helping manage that grid load. So Aquanta then has created what is essentially a nest for water heaters, and here it is, right? So this is a retrofittable appliance that you can stick on a dumb water heater and make it smart. So Aquanta was built from the ground up to be smart network and smart home enabled. We have some unique analytic capabilities that create a learning algorithm to discern the use patterns in the home and then create an autonomous learning, so kind of like the Nest thermostat, but also provide analytics that help the utility use the water heater as a grid management resource. Aquanta is a near universal retrofit, so it works on pretty much any storage water heater. Again, there's 125 plus million of them out there. We have gas and electric versions, so all in all, we're retrofittable and adaptable to about, so like 2/3, 3/4 of the US water heater installed base. So I've been talking about the utility grid and the utility management opportunity, but really Aquanta is also part of the smart home as well. And we sell to DIYers and smart home enthusiasts through our web and Amazon channels, and up there some of the feedback about it. So the customers really love the product, and you can go out and buy one today from on Amazon or our website for $150. And we think that having a product that customers love is key to working with this utility channel. So having the utility have a device that utility is going to love and key to help to enable distribution, I guess, and partnering with utilities, getting Aquanta deployed. So Aquanta enables a litany of use cases when it comes to demand-side management programs, from demand response, time of use, for storage of excess renewables, and these are all technical terms which you can go into, but the utility folks know what I'm talking about, basically helping manage the grid of the future. And frankly, we've made a ton of progress since we launched last year. So we launched in Q4 of last year. We've got Aquantas pretty much everywhere in North America. There's a couple very lonely states and provinces that don't have an Aquanta in them. We have dozens of utility trials with our core utility market. We've launched our first major utility programs with Green Mountain Power in Vermont, Portland General in Oregon, and Vector in New Zealand. In fact, that our vision has been borne out by the fact that we have an unbelievable pipeline with utility distribution partners. Of this pipeline, a good 3/4 of it was inbound, and that represents 10 million units and $115 million of potential revenue over the next 18 months. We work directly with utilities in helping get the product distributed through their utility managed programs, but also program integrators like ICF, Clear Result, and the other kind of big companies that manage utility programs. I lead Aquanta, but I have a fabulous management team around us who are all player coaches, so people who have been in the both the utility space but in the startup ecosystems for a long time. So we've got guys who have been involved, have 50 years worth of startup experience, and have proven to be a fabulous asset for me and the company. So we've got a table out there if you'd like to hear more about Aquanta, and thank you for your time.
I'm curious, who are your competitors? Who else is there anyone else in the space?
Sure. So really the competitors, at least in the utility side, are the incumbents who made the legacy installed base of water heater control switches, so Eaton and Converge. But to our knowledge, and this has been validated by pretty much everybody that we've talked to and we're working with, nobody's doing this three-way value proposition of having a standalone customer value proposition. So I can look at my smartphone and control my water heater, see how much energy I'm using. Two is have autonomous control to enable energy efficiency. And the third is the demand side management. So there's all the smart thermostat makers are doing this, so Nest, Ecobee, what have you, all have this three-way value proposition, and nobody, frankly, is doing that for the water heater right now.
You guys are in revenue right now, correct?
Correct.
What are your sales this year?
Well, we're a private company, but we'll probably do about $250K this year, right? So we're just getting the marketing engine and frankly the utility program engine going. So those utility programs just got stood up, but 2008 is the year where they kind of get more scale deployment.
So today you've been primarily marketing to consumers, and you're bringing on the marketing to the utilities, or what does that look like?
Yeah, the end user marketing is really, frankly, a bit of a sideline in that there's a smart home enthusiast ecosystem, right, that wants to have their water heater smart, and frankly, it's a way for us to get products out there, prove they work, test the value proposition, which again I think we validated. But the reality, as you well know, is that the utility sales cycle is an incredibly long cycle. And so some of these utility programs with Green Mountain Power, for instance, we had units in their hands in January of 2016. And so that program only got going in Q3 of this year. So there's 36-month sales cycle. So we're just starting to see the seeds that we planted back starting in 2016 come to fruition, and same thing for 2017. So that's why we are confident that 2018 is going to be a big year for us.
How many units do you need to sell to hit cash flow break even? And then how do you think about using these units to bid into demand response markets, and how are you going to monetize that?
Sure.
If you are doing that already.
Right. Well, yeah, with our current course and speed headcount and what have you, about 2,500 units a month, right, is kind of break even. And the other question was, bidding in the capacity market. So we're not set up as an aggregator, right? So having said that, we have a number of incipient relationships with companies that are interested in aggregating load in markets like PJM and what have you. But almost all the utilities that we have their own demand response programs and demand response needs. And so those aren't being bid into capacity markets, and we're not reliant upon revenue from capacity markets. These are all kind of internal grid management systems and programs that we're working with.
21 seconds. All right. Good.
All right. Thank you all.